Uneasy alliance. The Galactic Accord's central chamber glittered with the reflected light of a dozen suns, streaming through crystalline walls that curved upward into a dome of impossible proportions. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the speaker's podium, her navy blue uniform stark against the pearlescent floor, waiting as the translation fields shimmered into place around her. Representatives of the Accord, she began, her voice steady despite the weight of 7 billion lives hanging on her words. Humanity extends its gratitude for this audience. Our petition for full membership status remains unchanged, as does our commitment to peaceful integration. The chamber hummed with whispers and clicks and electronic chirps, the sound of 200 species communicating their disdain in languages Elena's translator couldn't fully capture. Above her, tiered seating arranged in concentric rings held the delegates, with the most powerful species occupying the lowest, most privileged circle. Humanity's temporary observer seat was positioned in the uppermost ring, alongside other developing species. High Counselor Thax of the Seldari hegemony rose from his position in the first circle. His crystalline exoskeleton caught the light as he extended 4 of his 6 limbs in the formal posture of address. Commander Reyes, the translation came through with the artificial warmth programmed into all official Accord communications. Your species' petition has been reviewed extensively. The current consensus remains that humanity requires further cultural development before full membership can be granted. Elena maintained her diplomatic smile, though her jaw clenched slightly. This was the 7th time in 20 years that Earth had been denied. Each rejection came with vaguer justifications than the last. May I inquire as to the specific developmental benchmarks we failed to meet? She asked, knowing the answer before it came. The assessment committee's findings are confidential to protect the evaluation process. Thax replied smoothly. Rest assured, humanity's current observer status affords you significant privileges within Accord space. Privileges that didn't include voting rights, advanced technology transfers, or protection from unsanctioned trade restrictions that somehow only seem to affect human colonies. Thank you for your consideration, Elena said, inclining her head in the exact angle of respect required by protocol. Not a degree more. Earth will continue its commitment to Accord principles. As she stepped away from the podium, a ripple of movement caught her attention. From the 3rd tier, a delegate was descending toward the chamber floor, an unprecedented breach of protocol. The figure wore flowing garments that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making its features difficult to discern. The chamber's security fields flickered but did not activate. This session is concluded, Thax announced sharply, but the figure continued its approach. The Accord claims to welcome all voices, came a melodic voice that somehow bypassed the translation fields entirely, reaching Elena's mind directly. Yet some truths remain unspoken. The figure stood before Elena now, its garments settling around it like liquid shadow. Up close, she could see the being was humanoid but with skin that shifted like oil on water, reflecting iridescent patterns that seemed to form and dissolve in endless sequence. I am Rawl of the Veil, the being said, this time aloud for all to hear. We have observed long enough. The human speaks truth when she questions, and truth deserves answer. The chamber erupted in protests. Thax's voice cut through the chaos. The Veil have no recognition status within this chamber. Security, remove the intruder. But Rawl simply extended a hand toward Elena. Commander Reyes, we would speak with Earth. There is much you should know. Before she could respond, the security fields finally activated, bathing the chamber in crimson light. Elena felt herself being pulled away by her own security detail, but not before Rawl pressed something into her palm, a small object that felt warm against her skin. The time of listening is ended, Rawl said as guards surrounded them. Now comes the time of seeing. 12 hours later, Elena sat in her private quarters aboard the Earth diplomatic vessel Concordia, turning the small object over in her hands. It appeared to be a simple stone, obsidian black with veins of silver running through it like neural pathways. It had passed all security scans as inert material, yet something about it felt alive. A chime announced Admiral Chen's arrival. The door slid open to reveal the weathered face of her commanding officer, lines of fatigue etched deeply around his eyes. "I just spent 3 hours being lectured by the Accord Security Council about proper diplomatic procedures," he said, dropping heavily into the chair across from her. "Apparently, we should have prevented the Veil delegate from approaching you." "The Veil aren't even recognized by the Accord," Elena said. "How were we supposed to know their protocols?" "Exactly what I said." Chen rubbed his temples. "What's more interesting is how agitated the council became at the mere mention of them. The Seldari representative practically demanded we forget the encounter entirely." Elena held up the stone. "Which makes this all the more intriguing." Chen leaned forward. "What is it?" "I don't know yet, but the Veil went to extraordinary lengths to give it to me." "The Veil are isolationists," Chen said. "There's no record of them ever initiating contact with another species before. Something's changed." Elena's secure terminal chimed with an incoming transmission. The screen flickered to life, showing Captain Mercer of the Frontier Colony ship New Horizons. "Commander Reyes," Mercer's voice came through, distorted by distance and encryption. "We've got a situation at Outpost Theta." "Report, Captain." "The outpost has gone silent. All 43 colonists and the research team. We detected a massive energy surge before communications cut out." Elena had exchanged a glance with Chen. "Accident?" "Negative," Mercer replied grimly. "We found debris patterns consistent with weapons fire. Advanced weapons, nothing we've seen before." "Any vessels detected in the vicinity?" "None on our scanners." "But," Mercer hesitated, "there was an Accord diplomatic ship logged passing through the sector 6 hours before the incident." "A Seldari vessel." The stone in Elena's hand suddenly warmed, the silver veins pulsing with soft light, as if responding to the information. "Hold position, Captain. Do not approach the outpost further until we arrive. Send all data to my secure channel." After Mercer signed off, Elena turned to Chen. "The Seldari were particularly vocal about denying our membership petition today. And now a human outpost near their space is destroyed." Chen's expression darkened. "That's one hell of a coincidence." The stone pulsed again, more urgently. Elena made a decision and pressed her thumb against its smooth surface. The room filled with a holographic display, a 3-dimensional star map highlighting travel patterns of Accord vessels over the past year. Hundreds of routes crisscrossed the projection, but a distinct pattern emerged: systematic movements around human colonies, establishing a perimeter that had been slowly tightening. "They've been containing us," Elena whispered. A new voice spoke, Rawl's melodic tones emanating from the stone itself. "The Accord is not what it claims to be. The founding species do not seek unity. They seek control. Those who resist containment find themselves facing unfortunate incidents like your Outpost Theta." "Why tell us this?" Chen demanded. "Why now?" "Because humanity is different," Rawl's voice replied. "You question. You adapt. You have achieved in 50 years of space travel what took other species centuries. The hegemony fears what they cannot predict, and you, humans, are unpredictable." Elena studied the tactical display, her mind racing. "They're preparing for something." "Yes," Rawl confirmed. "The destruction of your outpost is merely the beginning. The pattern has been established countless times before. First isolation, then provocations to justify military response, and finally, subjugation. We've done nothing to provoke this," Chen protested. "Your existence is provocation enough," Rawl said. "Your potential threatens the order they have maintained for millennia." Elena stood, decision made. "Admiral, we need to recall our diplomatic mission and alert Earth Command immediately. If we withdraw now, it could be seen as an act of aggression," Chen cautioned. "They've already committed an act of war by attacking our outpost." Elena clenched her fist around the stone. "We came offering peace and cooperation, but if the Accord wants conflict instead..." Her voice hardened. They'll soon learn why that was their last mistake. The stone pulsed once more, and Rawl's voice returned, tinged with what might have been approval. The Veil have watched from the shadows for too long. Perhaps it is time we stepped into the light, together. As if in response to Rawl's words, Alina's secure terminal lit up with multiple incoming alerts. Reports were flooding in from human outposts throughout Accord space. Unexplained power fluctuations, communication disruptions, unidentified vessels appearing at the edge of sensor range. It's already begun, Chen said quietly. Alina squared her shoulders, the weight of command settling firmly upon them. Then so has our response. Outside the viewport of the Concordia, the jeweled lights of the Accord's central station gleamed against the void, beautiful and cold. For 20 years, humanity had played by their rules, trusted their promises, believed in the ideal of a unified galaxy. That time was over. On the observation deck of the Seldari dreadnought, Immutable Truth, High Counselor Fax reviewed the report from Outpost Theta with satisfaction. The humans would understand the message. Step back in line or face consequences. What Fax didn't see was the shadow that detached itself from the wall behind him, moving with impossible silence across the deck. What he didn't hear was the whisper of fabric as Rawl of the Veil materialized from seemingly nowhere. You play a dangerous game, Counselor, Rawl said. Fax whirled, mandibles clicking in alarm. How did you get aboard this vessel? The security fields cannot detect what they do not understand, Rawl finished. Much like how you fail to understand the humans. They are primitives, Fax hissed. Barely 5 centuries of industrialization. Their technology is borrowed, their unity fragile. And yet you fear them enough to destroy their outposts, Rawl observed. Perhaps it is not their technology that threatens you, but their nature. Fax's crystalline exoskeleton flashed with patterns of outrage. The Accord has maintained peace for 10,000 years. Every species must be guided to their proper place within it. Guided? Rawl's form seemed to grow darker, or controlled. The humans call what you've created an empire, Counselor, and history teaches that all empires eventually fall. Is that a threat? Fax demanded. No, Rawl replied, already fading back into shadow. Merely an observation. You struck the first blow against humanity, thinking them weak and isolated. Now you will learn how deeply you have miscalculated. As Rawl vanished completely, Fax hurried to the command console, urgency in every movement. Alert all hegemony vessels, he ordered. Implement Containment Protocol 7. The humans must not be allowed to communicate with their homeworld. But on his display, alerts were already appearing. Human diplomatic vessels breaking orbit, communication buoys going dark, and one message repeating across all Accord channels. If this is how you answer peace, you will regret this war. The pieces were now in motion, and neither humanity nor the Accord would ever be the same again. Shadows in the void. The Earth Defense Council chamber was nothing like the opulent halls of the Galactic Accord. Steel walls, practical lighting, and tactical displays surrounded the oval table where 12 men and women sat in grim silence. The holographic projection of Outpost Theta's destruction played for the third time, frame by frame. The flash of weapons fire, the disintegration of habitat domes, the thermal signatures of 43 lives extinguished in seconds. Admiral Chen paused the playback on a single frame showing the energy signature of the attacking vessel. The weapon technology is consistent with Seldari disruptor arrays, but the attack pattern doesn't match their tactical doctrine. Alina Reyes stood at the head of the table, her diplomatic uniform exchanged for a commander's duty attire. They wanted it to look like a rogue action, plausible deniability, while simultaneously sending us a message, added General Santos, her weathered face tight with controlled anger. The question is, why now? Why after 20 years of cold diplomacy suddenly turn hot? Alina placed the veil stone at the center of the table. It pulsed once, acknowledging its role, then projected a series of data streams into the air above the council table. According to the intelligence Rawl provided, the Accord operates on cycles. Every new species is allowed to develop to a certain point before being assessed for their potential risk to the established order. And humanity scored too high on their threat assessment, Chen concluded. Precisely. Elena manipulated the projection, revealing a timeline of species integrations into the Accord. Most species spend centuries at observer status before being granted limited membership. We've been pushing for full rights after just 2 decades. Defense Minister Clark leaned forward, his eyes narrowed. You're saying they attacked us because we're impatient. I'm saying they attacked us because we're advancing too quickly, Elena corrected. Look at these technological adaptation curves. The average species takes 3 generations to fully implement Accord technology into their society. We did it in 1. We're not following their expected pattern of development. The stone pulsed again, and Rawl's voice filled the chamber. There is more. The Seldari and the other founding species of the Accord have maintained their position through careful regulation of technology transfer. They provide enough to make membership valuable, but withhold the innovations that would allow newer species to challenge their dominance. So the peace was always conditional, Santos said bitterly. All peace is conditional, General, Rawl replied. But the Accord's conditions were never made clear to your people. That is not peace. It is subjugation through deception. Elena pressed a control, and a new set of data appeared, classified files on species that had been removed from Accord records. These are the species that refuse to comply with Accord guidance. Notice the pattern: initial sanctions, followed by isolation, then unexplained disasters, and finally, annexation of remaining territories under the guise of humanitarian intervention. The council members studied the evidence in silence, the implications sinking in like a physical weight. How did you get this information? Clark finally asked. The Veil aren't even members of the Accord. We are everywhere and nowhere, Rawl answered. The Veil were once like you, curious, innovative, unwilling to accept artificial limitations. The Accord tried to contain us as well, but unlike others, we did not fight them directly. We simply disappeared. Disappeared, Chen echoed. We developed technology that shields us from their detection systems. For centuries, we have lived in the shadows of their empire, watching, learning, preparing. Preparing for what? Elena asked. The stone pulsed brighter. For an ally who could help us challenge their dominance. We believe humanity is that ally. A heavy silence fell over the room. Clark broke it with a skeptical grunt. This is awfully convenient timing. The Veil appeared just as we face an existential threat, offering alliance and intelligence. A valid concern, Rawl conceded. But consider this: if we wished humanity harm, we needed only to do nothing. The Accord's path for your species was already determined. Elena studied the tactical displays, mind racing through scenarios. What can you tell us about their military capabilities? Their technology exceeds yours by several generations, Rawl replied. But their tactics have grown predictable through millennia of unchallenged supremacy. They expect submission, not resistance, and they certainly do not expect coordination between humans and Veil. So we have surprise on our side, Santos said. Not much to stake our survival on. We have more than that, Elena countered. We have something they've never faced before. A species that evolved in isolation, developed technological approaches they've never encountered, and most importantly, one that doesn't play by their rules. She activated her personal datapad, bringing up Project Prometheus, a classified weapons development program that had been running in parallel to their public research efforts. While we've been publicly adopting their technology, we've privately been developing our own. Hybrid systems that combine Accord principles with distinctly human approaches. Admiral Chen's eyebrows rose. The Defense Directorate never authorized. It wasn't a military initiative, Elena cut in. It was a contingency plan authorized by the Diplomatic Corps after our 3rd membership rejection. We suspected something wasn't right with the Accord's endless delays. The display showed schematics for propulsion systems, weapons platforms, and communication arrays that bore little resemblance to standard Accord designs. These systems operate on principles the Accord sensors aren't designed to detect, Elena explained. We've been testing them in remote sectors for years. How many ships have been outfitted with this technology? Santos asked. 37 vessels, deployed strategically throughout human space, plus 17 stealth satellites in orbit around key Accord worlds. The Council members exchanged shocked glances. You positioned weapons platforms in Accord territory without authorization. Clark's voice rose in alarm. Not weapons, Elena clarified. Observation posts with defensive capabilities. And I didn't need authorization. Establishing diplomatic listening posts falls under my purview as commander of interspecies relations. A grudging smile crossed Santos's face. Clever interpretation of your mandate, Commander. I prefer creative diplomacy, Elena replied. And it's about to pay off. Those satellites have been collecting data on Accord fleet movements, communications, and defensive systems for 3 years. The stone pulsed again, and a new voice joined the conversation. Calm, measured, and unmistakably Vale, but not raw. I am Nyx, first shadow of the Vale Conclave. The voice introduced itself. What Commander Reyes has done mirrors our own approach centuries ago. You have been preparing without knowing the full threat, guided by instinct and caution. This speaks well of humanity's intuition. The Vale have maintained hidden outposts throughout Accord space since our official extinction. Nyx continued. We can provide access routes, blind spots in their detection grids, and real-time intelligence on fleet movements. Admiral Chen leaned back, expression thoughtful. A shadow war, then. For now, Elena agreed. We're outgunned in a direct confrontation. But with Vale intelligence and our unconventional technology, we can establish a network of resistance before the Accord realizes what's happening. And what exactly would be happening, Commander? Clark asked pointedly. Elena's expression hardened. The systematic dismantling of the Accord's power structure, Minister, beginning with reaching out to other subjugated species who might join our cause. The Accord has enemies beyond the Vale, Nyx confirmed. Species that maintain the appearance of compliance while harboring deep resentment. The Navari, who lost their outer colonies to pirate raids that were actually Seldari black operations. The Trizeri, whose technological research has been deliberately sabotaged for generations. The Elquer, who are permitted to maintain only ceremonial military forces while Accord peacekeepers occupy their homeworld. A coalition of the oppressed, Santos mused. An alliance of the unbroken, Elena corrected. And humanity will be its catalyst. The council chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembled leaders. It was Clark who finally spoke, his voice heavy with the weight of the decision. You're proposing that we become the very thing the Accord accused us of being, a disruptive force that threatens their established order. Yes, Elena said simply, because their order is built on lies and subjugation. They struck first, Minister. Now we show them why that was a mistake. 2 weeks later, Elena stood on the bridge of the EDF Harbinger, watching as the sleek vessel slipped silently through the void between stars. Unlike the bulky, obvious designs of traditional human ships, the Harbinger was all smooth lines and dark materials, its hull incorporating Vale stealth technology alongside human innovation. Approaching the Navari border zone, Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported from the tactical station. No Accord patrols detected. Maintain stealth protocols, Elena ordered, and prepare for contact package transmission when we reach the designated coordinates. Beside her stood Rawl, his shimmering form somehow less conspicuous on the dimly lit bridge. The Navari will be suspicious, he cautioned. They have been betrayed before. That's why we're not coming empty-handed, Elena replied. She nodded to Jackson, who brought up a holographic display of the ship's cargo, manufacturing templates for defense systems that could counteract Seldari weapons, medical technology the Accord had deemed too advanced for Navari physiology, and agricultural enhancements that could help restore their devastated outer colonies. Gifts? Rawl asked, curious. Tools, Alina corrected. And proof of our intentions. We're not asking them to fight our battles. We're offering to help them fight their own. The view screen flickered, showing their destination, a seemingly unoccupied region of space near the Navari homeworld. Sensors revealed the truth, however. A cloaked station, hidden from Accord surveillance, but visible to the Harbinger's enhanced systems. Commander, Jackson's voice held a note of tension. We're being scanned by multiple sources. The signature matches. Navari, Trizari, and 3 other species I can't identify. Alina smiled tightly. It seems the Navari have already started building alliances of their own. A promising sign, Rawl observed. The communications array chimed, and a voice came through, cautious, speaking in heavily accented standard. Human vessel, you have entered restricted space. Identify your purpose. Alina stepped forward. This is Commander Alina Reyes of Earth. We come seeking allies against a common enemy. A pause, then. What enemy would that be, human? The ones who destroyed our outpost. The ones who've been containing your people for generations. The Galactic Accord. Another, longer pause. When the voice returned, it carried a new tone. Something between hope and skepticism. Bold words from a species that has been courting Accord membership for decades. We were deceived, Alina replied simply. As were you. We've brought evidence of Accord operations against both our peoples and technology that can help us resist future aggression. The view screen activated, revealing a Navari, tall with iridescent scaled skin, and 6 eyes arranged in a circle around a central sensory cluster. Behind him stood representatives of at least 4 other species, all watching with intense focus. I am Curvin, speaker for the Free Worlds Alliance. The Navari introduced himself. We have monitored your approach since you entered this sector. Your ship's design is unexpected. As is your alliance, Alina countered. It seems we've both been keeping secrets from the Accord. Curvin's sensory cluster pulsed with what might have been amusement. And now you bring a veil with you. The plot thickens. Rawl stepped forward. The veil have washed long enough. The time for action has come. Curvin studied them both, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence. The Accord believes the veil extinct and humans contained. Yet here you both are, in a ship that defies their technological signature, offering alliance. He made a sound like water over stones, a Navari laugh. Perhaps the old order is not as stable as they believe. Join us, Alina urged, not as subordinates, but as equals, each species bringing its unique strengths to the table. And what exactly would this alliance do, Commander Reyes? Asked another being, a Trizari with crystalline appendages that refracted light in complex patterns. Launch open war against the most powerful force in the galaxy. No, Alina said firmly. We fight from the shadows first. We establish communication networks they can't monitor. We share technology they've forbidden. We build defenses they can't penetrate. And when the time is right, when we've gathered enough allies and resources, then we step into the light. Curvin conferred with the others in hushed tones before turning back to the screen. You propose a significant risk, human. If discovered, all our peoples would face severe retaliation. They've already attacked us, Alina replied. They've already sabotaged your research and isolated your worlds. What more could they do that they haven't already planned? The Trizari leaned forward. She is not wrong, Curvin. The Seldari fleet movements have increased by 30% in the past cycle. Something has them concerned. Us, Rawl said simply. They fear what they cannot control. Curvin's sensory cluster pulsed again, this time with determination. Send your ship's delegation aboard, Commander Reyes. Let us discuss the details of this resistance in person. As the transmission ended, Admiral Chen's holographic form appeared on the Harbinger's bridge. Progress. Better than expected, Alina reported. They'd formed their own alliance already. We're not starting from scratch. The hegemony is mobilizing, Chen warned. They're establishing blockades around 3 human colonies claiming quarantine protocols due to mysterious outbreaks. Their standard playbook, Rawl noted. Isolation precedes conquest. Alina's eyes hardened. They still think they're dealing with a conventional opponent. They expect diplomatic protests, formal complaints, perhaps token resistance. And what will they get instead? Chen asked. Alina looked to the view screen where the hidden station of the Free Worlds Alliance waited. A shadow war they never saw coming, fought by enemies they thought they'd already defeated. She turned to Rawl. Contact your conclave. Tell them to activate all sleeper cells throughout Accord space, and the protocols we discussed. Rawl asked. Implement them immediately, Alina confirmed. Operation Twilight begins now. As the Harbinger prepared to dock with the hidden station, carrying the seeds of rebellion to fertile ground, Alina couldn't help but think of the Accord's dismissive rejection of humanity's petition just weeks before. How quickly the galaxy's political landscape was changing. How unprepared the hegemony was for what would come next. They had struck the first blow against humanity, thinking it would force submission. Instead, they had ignited a flame that would soon become an inferno. Silent Vanguard. The observation deck of the Celdari command vessel Imperial Verdict offered an unparalleled view of the blockade surrounding New Terra, humanity's most productive colony world. 27 warships maintained a perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of twin suns. High Counselor Fax watched with satisfaction as his flagship settled into position at the blockade's center. The quarantine is proceeding as planned, Admiral Jex reported, her crystalline exoskeleton clicking softly as she bowed. No vessels have attempted to breach the perimeter. And the humans' response? Fax inquired. As expected, formal protests through Accord channels, appeals to neutral species for mediation. Their military vessels remain in defensive positions around their core worlds. Fax made a gesture of approval, his upper limbs tracing the ritual pattern for successful strategy. They understand the futility of resistance. Once isolated, New Terra will provide the perfect justification for our intervention. And the veil contact with their diplomat? Jex asked carefully. A minor concern. The veil are shadows of a once formidable species. Whatever technology they possessed was lost centuries ago. Fax turned from the viewport. Have our agents proceeded with the next phase? Yes, Counselor. The contaminants have been introduced to New Terra's agricultural processing centers. Within 20 standard days, the colony will experience widespread food shortages, followed by civil unrest. Excellent. When we step in to assist, we will be seen as saviors, not conquerors. Fax's mandibles clicked in amusement. The same strategy has worked flawlessly for millennia. Why change what perfection requires no improvement? What neither Fax nor Jex noticed was the maintenance drone hovering near the air circulation duct, a standard model used throughout Accord vessels, distinguishable only by a slight discoloration on its upper housing. Inside the drone, compressed beyond normal physical limits, a human operative named Marcus Shen monitored the conversation through enhanced audio receptors. The tiny camera embedded in the drone's scanner array captured every detail of the tactical displays showing the blockade formation. This information transmitted via quantum-encrypted pulses to a receiver that by all Accord detection standards did not exist. 3 light-years away, aboard the stealth vessel EDF Phantom, Commander Alina Reyes reviewed the intelligence with Rawl and the representatives of the growing alliance. The holographic display showed a 3-dimensional model of the blockade, updated in real time thanks to Shen's reconnaissance. 27 ships deployed in standard Celdari containment formation, Alina noted. Their blind spots are exactly where Rawl predicted they would be. Kervin of the Navari studied the display, his 6 eyes focusing independently on different aspects of the tactical situation. The Celdari are nothing if not consistent. The same formations, the same strategies, millennium after millennium. Consistency born of unchallenged supremacy, commented Taylor, the Trezari representative. Her crystalline appendages refracted light as she manipulated the holographic display. They have no need for innovation when domination comes so easily. Until now, Elena said firmly. Operation Silent Vanguard proceeds as planned. All teams report ready status. The display shifted to show a galaxy map with dozens of highlighted points, each representing a cell of the resistance now spread throughout Accord space. Human operatives working alongside Veil agents, Navari infiltrators, Trezeri engineers, and representatives from 7 other species who had joined their cause over the past month. Phase 1 has exceeded expectations, reported Admiral Chen via secure holographic link. Infiltration units are in position on 17 key Accord facilities. The communication network is operational, completely independent of standard Accord channels. And New Terra? Elena asked. Our people were ready, Chen confirmed. When the Seldari introduced their contaminants, our agricultural engineers were already implementing the countermeasures. The colony will appear to be suffering the expected shortages, while actually maintaining full production under secured conditions. Elena nodded with satisfaction. The Seldari expect us to react conventionally. Diplomatic protests, perhaps desperate attempts to run the blockade. They don't realize we're fighting an entirely different kind of war. One where the battlefield isn't space, Rawl added, but information, perception, and preparation. The Prometheus technology? Kervin inquired. Elena gestured to a Veil technician, who brought up schematics for a device no larger than a human palm. The quantum disruptors are ready for deployment. Once activated, they'll create,